just try one out. So if Robinhood's going to be the easiest one because it's a bigger known name or like a Webull and it's really easy access to get into it, I'd say just start with one.
Hello and welcome to Neighborhood Money, a video podcast here to help you grow your financial knowledge and build a life you deserve. We are in episode 15 of the podcast, and this week we are going to mix things up just a little bit. If you've listened to our episodes before, we have pretty structured format in our script, but this week Drew and I thought it would be pretty fun just to go back and forth and talk about brokerage accounts, what they are and what are the brokerage accounts we use, why we use them, and what we do with them.
Yeah, so if you guys do like the way we have conversations during this episode, just let us know, and we're going to constantly tweak this podcast and this YouTube just so it gets to be, very well flowing and very entertaining for you guys as well as informative.
But before we get into the episode, Drew, I think we've got a neighborhood comment out there to read for this week.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and read it here. It says, "Thank you for another great episode. I love how so many episodes have a common theme of preparing and saving for your future. Life goes by fast. Start preparing now." And that's from our neighbor Nancy. Thank you for commenting. We do appreciate it. I know during every episode we always kind of harp on it, just saying, "Hey, we'd love to hear your comments," and to be getting them in and for us to be able to read them during these episodes are awesome. So thank you.
Thanks for that comment, Nancy. Really appreciate it. And thanks for supporting us over on YouTube. Just like last week, we introduced a trivia segment of the podcast. So we've got two more for you guys this week. Hey, Drew, do you want to read them
Sure.
off?
So the first trivia question is, what percentage of Americans own stock? So towards the end of this episode, we will be answering that question.
That one's very fitting too, seeing that we're going to talk all about brokerage
Yes,
accounts.
very fitting. The second one will be, on this date, November 8th in 1910, William H. Frost received his first patent for what invention?
I got to say, Drew, when you showed me this question, I just died laughing out loud. I thought it was hilarious. So just wait till the end. I think you guys will also get a big kick out of it.
I hope so. I thought it was a pretty good question, but well, we'll see if people like it or not.
All right. So stick around and hear the answers later on in the episode. So brokerage accounts, Drew. Some people may or may not really know what a brokerage account is. So why don't we start off there? What exactly is a brokerage account?
Well, I would say a brokerage account is basically a bank account that allows you to buy and sell securities, so stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, etc.
It's a really easy way now, now that it's the internet age and all these companies have their services on phones. It's a really easy way for you to get into investing outside of your employer sponsored retirement plan.
Yeah, back in the day, and actually not even back in the day, just even probably 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was pretty difficult, or people thought it was difficult to actually get into these brokerage services. Before, they used to have things of a full service brokerage account and discounted brokerage account. So full service would be you calling your broker and saying, "Hey, can you place this trade for me?" They make these calls or they execute all these for you. And then there came discounted brokerage firms. So these are things that we know today as, say, what TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab or maybe even Robinhood, if you've heard of that, where you can actually go in yourself and execute these trades. You can look for the stocks you want, you can pick them, buy them, sell them, etc.
Yeah, that new age discount brokers or whatever you called them, it's really awesome to allow for retail investors access to these markets that really had an obstacle in front of them in the past. But now anyone can really go out, as long as you're 18 years of age or older, can really go out and start buying and investing into assets like the stock market.
Yeah, and when Cavan's talking about retail traders are just traders like you and me. We're not tied to any institution. We're not taking people's money and investing it for them. So it's just your normal Joe Schmo that wants to go trade some stocks is what a retail trader is.
And there's a ton of different brokerage companies that you can open up a brokerage account through. Drew just named a couple, and I'm sure we'll dive into more later on when we talk specifically about what Drew and I both use. But there's a ton of different options. And what's really great about that is it creates competition amongst all of them to really help you, the end consumer, our neighbor here, to really get the best service as well as fee structures, etc., when you're deciding on that brokerage company. So, Drew, how do we really look at these brokerage companies knowing that there's so many out there? How do we look at them and really compare and choose between them?
Yeah, choosing between them is it can seem daunting, but I would say there was a time where there was a lot of brokerage accounts. They just kept popping up, it seemed like. And during the last couple of years, there's been this consolidation. There was, I believe it was Morgan Stanley bought out E Trade. And then just recently, Charles Schwab bought out TD Ameritrade. And so now there's kind of been this consolidation. And I was really worried that with this consolidation, that they may be jacking up prices or you wouldn't have as many options. And then came along like a Robinhood, and they said they
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to have any type of commissions on their trades, which was awesome. And there was so much popularity and it was so easy to get these Robinhood accounts that it really forced the big guys to then change the way they did their trading. So, for example, the Robinhood has zero commission trading. That means when you buy or sell a stock, you don't have to pay any fees for that. Before, when I started my TD Ameritrade account, I was paying $6.95 per trade. So turns the by the end of the year, if you did a lot of trades, it really, really added up. So you were really careful about what trades you wanted to make. And with Robinhood coming in, it was able to force the big guys to say, okay, we'll do zero commission too. So now when you're going in and out of stocks, it's much easier and cheaper, which has been awesome. But that might have brought in a lot more volatility to the stock market.
Yeah, looking at that 6.95 a trade, to put it in perspective, say you invested $100, you had to then get back almost a 7% return to just make up for those fees. So those could be a really big drag if you're either making a lot of investments throughout the year or having smaller investments where that fee is a larger percentage of the money that you're putting in. But the fact that it's changing more towards zero commission can really be a benefit for people that don't have the thousands of dollars that they can invest and really not worry about that $7 fee per trade and can really get in at a lower price point.
Yeah, and I would say another thing when you're comparing, and right now there's with that consolidation, the way Robinhood has really forced a bunch of hands. The nice thing is there isn't as much to compare anymore. When I was
Hmm.
getting my first brokerage account, well, not my first one, but the first one I wanted to actively trade about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a decent amount that you would compare. It would be what were their account minimums? Was it do I need to open an account? Do I need $1,000, 2,000, 3,000? What were the monthly fees for these platforms? What did you get access to? So these have been a lot of different things that we used to compare, and you don't have to as much anymore, which has been nice. Where there's not really
Hmm.
account minimums anymore. There's not commissions anymore, and with the technology now, most have pretty robust trading platforms as well, where before it was just kind of a web trading where you go on the internet, you'd see just a little line graph and
Yep.
you could just press buy and sell and you didn't really see as much real time movement as you can now.
So now it's almost you're looking at these different companies and saying, okay, what is the usability of their platform on whatever using it on, most likely your cell phone. So comparing how usable and how easy it is to go out and make a trade, to open an account, etc. That one's huge, at least for me. I know I really like going in and not having to go through 3 or 4 different menus just to go and buy it, make a trade. I like being able to go in and put in a trade in a matter of seconds rather than taking several minutes to do
I
so.
think even with you bringing up the mobile side of it is huge. Before, you couldn't really do as much with your cell phone, or you didn't even have a cell phone. So that's when those full time or full service brokerage accounts were there, where you'd pick up your phone and you'd call them, or you'd go in and you'd talk
Hmm.
to them. Now everything is right at the touch of your fingers, and you can really be anywhere and execute these trades. If you hear something on the news and go, "Oh my gosh, I'm in this stock right now. I need
Yep.
to get in or I need to get out." You can do that just taking phone out of your pocket, opening up the app and executing your trade.
I suppose that could be for better for worse too. If you think back of GameStop, if you saw it rising up and you bought at the top because you now have access, and then all of a sudden it drops. So obviously you got to be careful there. But another factor of when you're looking at a brokerage account is the security of the company. And this is one isn't too concerning, I don't think, for me personally, because these companies are one regulated by lawmakers, by legislation, and so they have to have certain things in place to allow them to have appropriate security. But it is something to consider because hackers do get into some of these companies, and you just want to make sure that you're aware of the security that they have in
Yeah,
place.
not only is your data important to these hackers, but as well as now, if there is a breach, it's not only your data, it's also your money. And that's where it gets really scary. So to have a trusted brokerage account is important, in my opinion.
And then I think the last thing, at least for me, I know Drew, you mentioned it a little bit already, but just your investment options. So some brokerages allow you access to different investments for different fees. Whereas some of these newer brokerage accounts like Robinhood and Webull, they have zero commissions. So you really have access to a wide range of stocks, ETFs, and index funds. Whereas some of the other brokerage accounts might still charge you for certain types of investments. So it's just something to consider.
And also, depending on how active you want to be in trading, another thing you may be looking into is if your brokerage account is selling options, easily and accessibly. Are they offering margin, which you can think of margin as a daily line of credit? You have to have X amount of equity in your account, but they will give you a certain line of credits. Most of the time you'll see about 4 times. So say you had $25 in your account, you could trade up to $100. But if the stock goes down, you have to come up with money for the equity. So margin trading can be
Yep.
pretty scary. But the other thing,
Very risky.
very risky. And the thing that on top of those option tradings or those margin trading, depending on how active you want to be, another thing to look at is the platform itself. Is it very trader friendly if you're going to be active? And if it is, do you have to pay a monthly fee for that trading platform of it? Is
Hmm.
is that monthly fee going to give you more access to, say, if you wanted to short a stock, can they find more shares available for you? What's their liquidity pool? So how much money can they draw from? So if you need to take out your money, you can be comfortable with how big their liquidity pool is. So those are some other things to think about if you were wanting to be on more of the active side. Is what are their options for their trading platforms, as well as potentially options or margin trading.
I think that's a really good thing you brought up is a lot of these companies that have the zero based commissions, they do offer a service, a paid service for access to additional tools, whether that's trading times or analytics or access to a community, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
It's obviously something you need to consider depending on what your strategy is going to be going forward.
Absolutely.
So, Drew, before we get into what brokerage accounts we actually
Mhm.
use, I did want to first say that thank you, the neighbor here, for listening to the podcast. We greatly appreciate your support. If you want to continue to support this podcast, you can do that in a couple of different ways. One, you can share this with one or two people that you know that will help us continue to grow our reach with this podcast. Also, if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, please go out and rate and review us on whatever platform you use, whether that's Apple, Google, or Spotify. If you're watching us over on
Mhm.
YouTube, let us know in the comments what are some topics that you want to see in the future. Let us know the type of brokerage account you use in your personal financial life. Also, if you're getting value from this video and podcast, like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can be notified of any future videos and episodes that we
Yeah,
release.
it's much appreciated. This helps with those algorithms and it just gives us that bigger reach. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, we want to share this with a bunch of the, the rest of the world so they can enjoy it as well.
Let's dive back a little bit into our investing history. And I guess the question is, what company did you first start out with when you started investing? What brokerage account did you open?
When I first started, it wasn't necessarily a brokerage account, I would say. So, money from graduation of high school, I went and talked to a financial advisor and I put money into a mutual fund with him. And I could go on to that account to kind of see where it was at. And that was through Lincoln Financial. I could kind of see where it went, but if I wanted to really make trades in that, I would have had to reach out to him and he would have helped me move it around. So it wasn't
Hmm.
necessarily a personal brokerage account for me. And maybe I could have had access to that at the time. I just wasn't aware of it. But outside of that, it was kind of funny. One of the first things I started doing on a personal basis was actually when I was in college, I was in the investing club. And I don't know, one of the things we did in there was we went onto a website called Investopedia and they had a mock brokerage account. So you would be playing with
Cool.
fake money. You'd set up for this account, but you'd have your little trading platform. You'd be going off of what the actual prices for the day were, and you could be making those trades. So that was the first time I was aware of being able to execute trades and not really risking any money, but just getting familiar with how to do it, how to read charts. Even something as simple as a candlestick graph. I had no idea what that was, and it was just fun to be able to see that in real time and actually play around with that. So that was probably my first little experience with it. Other than I just thought about this as I was talking. Actually, in high school, we did some small stock trading. Do you remember that, Cavan, in
Oh yeah,
economics class?
yeah, econ. Yeah, I forgot all about
I
that.
don't know why that just popped in my head, but that when we did that, that was part of our class. We wrote down our shares and the price on a piece of paper, and we'd come back the
That's
next
right.
day and we look in the newspaper for what the price was at, or we go on Yahoo Finance.
Yep,
So
that's right. If I remember right, I lost a lot of money through that process,
yeah, I
which I don't think affected the grade or not. I can't quite
yeah, I
remember.
feel like I didn't do well on that either. I would just try to get through the class.
Drew, you talked about your, this investing with fake
Mhm.
money through Investopedia. Was that kind of your segue into, once you got through that, did you go jump right then into finding a brokerage
It
account?
actually wasn't right away. It took a little while. I felt like I wanted to at the time, but I'm just a procrastinator. So I was like, "Oh, I'll just set one up later." And then some
Sure.
speaker came in, and that was the first time I was aware of what a Roth IRA was. And I'm telling myself, "Oh, I'm going to set this up right now." And of course, I didn't. But it was probably not until I was out of college that I started looking into brokerage accounts. And that was when my
Okay.
first mindset went to outside of just a normal salary, what type of income can I make on the side? Can it be through these side jobs? Can it be through investing? Can it be through real estate, et cetera, et cetera? And investing was one I really liked. So I was starting to compare, and I actually found TD Ameritrade is what I wanted to go through. And the reason for that was their trading platform. I thought it was one of the better trading
Mm,
platforms. It's an opposite download you almost have to do. It's called Think or Swim platform, but it's part of TD Ameritrade. And that's what I've stuck with, and I've really liked it because it gives you very interactive graphs. You can put these studies on it so you can see these moving averages. You can set up your watch list so you can have multiple stocks on there and be watching them in real time. You can see account
okay.
balances. They flow through news. They have education areas, which are awesome. That things I want to learn more on, I click the education tab and I can really go through and I take classes actually inside there that they offer
That's
for
cool.
free. So the TD Ameritrade is where I'm currently at, and I haven't left them yet, but it's been very well to me.
So would you say that TD Ameritrade has really allowed you to really grow in your knowledge around stock trading?
Yeah, I think TD Ameritrade would just because of that education tab and the actual being able to work through trades. And they have that option too if you want to trade with fake money. So that's kind of
Okay.
cool. So if you first open up an account and you want to just try out the platform, get used to it, they actually have that option as well. There's these other brokerages of Charles Schwab and E Trade. interactive brokers. They have trading platforms as well, but from what I was reading, the Thinkorswim platform was probably one of the more robust ones that you could get for free.
Interesting. So, did you say then that through this platform you have zero commissions, or what are your fees look like for TD
Yeah, when
Ameritrade?
I started out, my account minimum, I had to have $2,000 in there. So that was one little hurdle, but almost any brokerage accounts at the time had a minimum balance. So you had to get your minimum balance, but I believe it's $0 now. But to be able
Okay.
to be considered for margin trading, you have to have over $2,000 in your account. The commissions at the time were $6.95 a trade. So that was a bit high. Charles Schwab, I think, was the best at $4.95. I think
Mm-hmm.
Fidelity might have been in that 495 as well. But
Mm-hmm.
that extra commission, I believe it went towards the better trading platform. So I didn't do as
Sure.
many ins and outs during the day. And at that time, it was more longer term trading and longer swing trades. So, within, I'm looking at a year or more from when I was buying and selling. So those commissions didn't seem as big of a deal at the time until I went to full time trading. And I really had to make sure I wanted to do the trade because it could have got
Yeah.
very expensive. After the zero commissions came in, there were days where I was putting through probably 30 to 40 trades in a day. So that could have got very
Okay.
expensive with 695.
So they are zero commission
Yep.
now.
They are.
That's
They
super
just got
awesome.
bought out by Charles Schwab just I think last year. So there is kind of that worry for me that Charles Schwab might find a way to make TD Ameritrade less enticing and get them moved over to the Charles Schwab platform. Whether that happens or
Mm-hmm.
not, I don't know, but it is kind of one of those worries that are in the back of my mind.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess I had a little bit different of a path. So I started with a company called Stash when I was in school or college, I should say. At the time was a small they were smaller than they are now, but they really allowed you access to ETFs or exchange traded funds, but it was
Hmm.
very limited. But the reason I really liked it is because you could start with as little as $5, I think was at the time.
Okay.
And I don't remember, I probably won't remember this correctly, but I think fees were either very low or
Okay.
zero. And it was just a good way for me to just learn about investing while investing money. And then I actually transferred over to Fidelity because I wanted to become a little more
Okay.
serious in investing. However, I wasn't actively looking to day trade. I don't currently day trade still,
Hmm.
but Fidelity actually came out with the zero cost index funds, which I was very excited about. And I
Nice.
wanted to move from Stash to a bigger
Hmm.
company. So I stuck with them for a couple of years. And essentially, all I did was just buy these zero cost index funds. I mean, it really fit into my financial plan and my financial
Was
goal.
there anything that prompted you to do Fidelity? Was it where you maybe in your employer sponsored plan you heard about Fidelity and you liked working with them through there that you opened that up yourself? Or is there something more enticing with Fidelity compared to other brokerage accounts?
It was actually those zero cost index funds that I was really interested in.
Okay.
And so that was really what brought me in. And at the time, I wasn't looking to buy individual stocks because they did have those
Hmm.
commissions. So I was really interested in these zero cost index funds. That's ultimately why I went there. But I actually moved away from there a couple of years ago and now currently use a company called Webull, which is a very similar company to
Hmm.
Robinhood. It has zero commissions, but what I really like about Webull is that it's very user friendly, the interface, but it also has a ton of different aspects or features to it, similar to like you were saying,
Yep.
Drew, about TD Ameritrade, where it's got analytics.
Yep.
It has a community tab where you can actually interact with people that use the app. It has a information news tab. So if you're interested in a company, you can actually go to that tab and it'll tell you all the different news articles that they have. So it really helps with
Yeah.
research and things like that. And another thing I really like is that you can actually buy fractional shares of companies. So rather than going out and buying Tesla for over $1,000, I could throw in $100 weekly and just buy a fraction of Tesla or whatever the company is and do that as often as I actually want rather than needing to save up to buy a full share of a
I
company.
think that's a really cool thing to bring up is that fractional stock buying. I first heard about that with like the Robinhood app, and then obviously Webull's fairly similar, and it does make it pretty awesome that if you looked at, like you said, a Tesla stock and saying, oh, it's $1,200 per share. I can't get into that. And now, like, you can actually have the option for that. And the also thing that was different with that Webull and Robinhood is they offered cryptocurrencies, which
Yeah.
these TD Ameritrades and these bigger brokerage accounts really didn't, at least not on their trading platforms. So when you end up seeing that huge spike in that Dogecoin, it was, I believe, those Robinhood retail traders that it was easy access to get into the crypto market, where before you had to go through and open up, say, Coinbase is a cryptocurrency kind of broker or wallet, and you have to go through face recognition, and then you had to put your passport potentially through your driver's license, go through three-step
Hmm.
verifications, and it was just way too, or it was just more difficult than opening up a Robinhood account in 5 minutes and then being able to say buy. And you could even do a fraction of, say, a Bitcoin if it was in that $25,000 range.
That's actually a good thing to bring up. We're talking mostly here around stock
Yep.
market, but there are these brokerage accounts or wallets for cryptocurrency.
Yep.
Drew, do you invest in crypto? And if so, what kind of companies do you use?
Yeah, I have some money in the crypto. I don't have a whole lot. It was something where I want to keep my focus and my niche on the stock market, because even there's a little bit of a niche that I try finding out, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's too broad. But anyways, long story short, I do have some cryptocurrency. One's in a company called Coinbase, and I had some
Okay.
Bitcoin through them, and it was called Ether, I believe. And
Yep.
now I've opened up a trust wallet, it's called, and I kind of got some of these out of the norm altcoins, I think is what they call them, and
Yep. Or
or
coins.
coins. So that one I hold on my wallet. It's called Trust Wallet. So that kind of that
Okay.
just gives me a mirror onto what they call the blockchain. And for me to then trade, I have to go into a bigger coin. So what I do is I have to actually go into a Binance coin, and then I have to go onto something called Pancake Swap, or there's like Uniswap or whatever, and then I swap
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Binance for one of my coins, and then now I have it on my wallet. So to sell them and buy them are kind of a pain in the rear end on those wallets, but as far as Coinbase goes, they have an exchange, and to be able to buy and sell is pretty easy, and there's a lot of liquidity there too, which is nice.
I'm gonna guess 90+ percent of people probably didn't understand a single thing you
Yeah,
said
so sorry.
about your crypto wallet.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But it's a really interesting space, yet confusing.
Hmm.
But yeah, Coinbase is a big one. I actually use that for some smaller coins, but I do use a company called
Hmm.
BlockFi. And what I really like about BlockFi is that they pay you interest on your cryptocurrency that you hold with
Oh,
them,
nice.
and their interest is actually pretty high relative to like a bank account. I think right now, for example, if you hold Bitcoin, it's somewhere in like the 4.5 to 5% interest rate that they'll pay you just for holding it on their platform. And they have several different coins that you can hold. One of the downfalls with BlockFi is that you just don't have a lot of options. If you want to look into those
Yeah.
altcoins, that's where you have to go more towards Coinbase, because I know they have expanded out their coin selection, or going towards, like you were saying, the wallet
Yep.
side, which gives you access to any coin that you want to do. You do have to think about those companies too when you think about brokerage accounts, because crypto is the hot and new thing. Granted, it's not all that new, and some of these companies really allow you easy access to start buying and holding and trading digital
Yeah.
currencies.
The easy to access has been like the biggest thing. And I think that's what, the stock market right now, I don't understand how high these valuations are, but I think
Yeah,
But
makes
I
no
think
sense.
one reason is that can be explained, in my opinion, is with the ease of access of getting into these brokerage accounts, there's more money flowing through the stock market. So with more money, obviously, there's obviously more trading volume, which can potentially increase prices.
So, for lack of a segue, let's dive into our trivia. First trivia question was, what percent of Americans own stock?
And the answer is 56%.
That kind of surprised me. I'm not going to lie, when I saw this answer, I figured it would be a little higher than almost half of
Hmm.
Americans, just because of the ease of access to the stock market through an employer sponsored plan.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's what was making me think a little bit higher. I wonder if that Americans is bringing in kids as well. So if that's having people under 18.
It was a Gallup poll that I believe was looking at
Okay.
adults, so it wasn't under 18. But still, I know that not everyone has access to employer
Yep.
sponsored plans, but it still was kind of surprising to
I
me.
see that number increasing over the next couple of years. I think that how easy it is to get into these stocks, I believe that number is going to be increasing every year. It's going to be just something as easy. People are going to look at buying stocks the way they think about buying on Amazon.
You would hope so,
Yep.
right? You hope that people continue to grow their financial literacy. All right, so question number 2. On this date in November 8th in 1910, William H. Frost received his first patent for what invention?
And the answer is brrrr, an electric bug zapper.
Yeah. When we were actually joking about this, Drew, he pulled it up, the actual image of the bug zapper, and it was just like this like big old like cylinder looking thing. Never would have guessed it was used to actually take care of your pest
Yep,
problem.
definitely a random trivia question, no doubt about that. But also interesting, it's there's patents for just about anything, and who nobody thinks about bug zappers anymore, so we'll bring them back.
So celebrate today the first patent of the electric bug zapper in style. Drew, so we talked about brokerage accounts. What are some of the takeaways that our neighbors should have here based on this episode?
Yeah, I think a takeaway for me is just try one out. So if Robinhood's going to be the easiest one because it's a bigger known name or like a Webull and it's really easy access to get into it, I'd say just start with one. You can always transfer your money and you can always switch your brokerage accounts, but just the fact of being able to start and look at it and get comfortable with it and see if you want more options, I think is very important, because I think there's always that saying, it's like you don't know what you don't know. And that's kind of with these brokerage accounts. You might start and you really like one part of it and you really don't like another part of it. And that's when you can start looking and comparing more once you get more comfortable with the actual access to these brokerage accounts.
I really like that. I think that getting started is the most important part. So just picking one that you like and going with it and learning as you continue to grow in your financial
Mhm.
knowledge and as you continue to invest over time is really important. I also think that look for those companies that allow you to invest for relatively cheap or for free, because it does allow you then to not pay the price of getting started.
And you never know, you might get to the point where you're doing so well at it that you go and get yourself a Bloomberg terminal, and I think those are $25,000 a month.
Yeah,
So
that's
that means
wild.
you can making some good money, and if you can afford that, then you're balling.
Can't say that can't say that my goals are to have one of those accounts, but hey,
Yeah, it's 25,000 a month or a year, but I'm pretty sure it's a month. I'm gonna see if I can even look it up quick here. How much is a Bloomberg terminal? The price drops to 20,000 per year. Okay, so you start off 24,000 per year. Sorry, it wasn't a month, it was a year, but still.
oh, well, in that case, I mean, I could easily have 3 of those right
Yeah, there you go,
now.
But yeah, those things are wild.
All right, Drew, what's been going on in your neighborhood this last week?
Ooh, what's going on in my neighborhood? Well, we don't have roommates anymore.
Nice.
Jordan's
Does that mean the kitchen's all done?
not quite. We still need countertops and some backsplash, but as far as everything else, it's livable, which is awesome. We got the fridge going, we got the sink going, we got the stove going,
Cool.
dishwasher, which is huge. We put away all of the dishes that we could, and
Mhm.
so it's pretty livable and cozy up there. We just need the countertops to come in, and then the backsplash will happen when we feel like it. But yeah, so that means the no more roommates here, which was Jordan's
Yeah.
dad and brother that stayed here for nine
Okay.
weeks. It was, it's almost kind of sad not having them here. No, they're
I'm
good
sure.
roommates, and there's always good conversations. So it's kind of weird now not
Yeah.
having them here. Plus, there was always a dog here, which is always nice.
Yeah, that's a disappointment having the puppy, or I should say the dog is no longer a puppy,
Yeah,
but having the dog around and now not being there
I know I'll
anymore.
like drop food and I'll be like, Ruby. She, but then
Yeah.
no dog comes. How about you? What's happening in your neighborhood?
So a little different this week, but I just had to bring it up on the episode. I found this article on CNBC about a Squid Game crypto token or
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrency. We talked about it a little bit today, so I thought, why not bring it
Yeah.
up? But Squid Game, the TV show, is so popular right now.
I've not seen it. I think it got so popular, so many people talked about it. There's something stubborn with me that I just don't want to watch it now.
I've seen the first episode. It's pretty intriguing. Anyways, so this article is about the Squid Game crypto called Squid. So this crypto started out at trading at like $0, which most cryptos
Yep.
do.
I want to say I looked back on like the 7-day chart or the month day chart, and it was somewhere in like the 3 cents area. I want to say probably 10, 15 days ago.
Yeah, so pretty much near
Hmm.
zero. And all of a sudden it just spiked. So it went from 3 cents all the way up to 2,800, just a little over
Yeah.
that in the matter of like, what, a couple hours, maybe a day.
Yeah, there's a jump of up to in the $30 range, and it kind of sat in that $30 range for a couple days, and then at about four, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, it started shooting up to like $100, 200, 300.
Yeah. And the main point of the story is that when it got up to like that, almost that
Yeah, it's like
$3,000
$2,800.
price tag, the Squid Game founders just cashed out. Like they're like, all right, we just made, I think the article said like $3.5 million. And they're like, see ya, peace, we're gone. And the thing just plummeted down
They
to
call them a
zero.
rug pull, and a lot of these what we call coins, they come up, people get kind of crazy about them, but then they're not really verified. They're just in for a quick buck, and they can rug pull and take off their whole entire smart contract, I believe is what they're called. And
Yeah.
there was some guy that was actually streaming live watching that, and you see him looking at it, it's going up higher, higher. He goes, the market cap for this thing right now, the valuation is like $1.2 trillion. And before he ends that sentence, it went from $2,800 down to
Yeah.
$0.0003. And the guy goes,
That's crazy.
oh.
So this article actually said that this person in Shanghai bought into the hype of the Squid Game. He's like, "Oh, hey, Squid Game super popular TV show. Like this thing's got to take off." Invested his life savings of $28,000 and lost everything.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess that's just a really, I know we're joking about the coin, but it is just a reminder that cryptocurrencies is kind of the wild, wild west right now of that realm. And some of these altcoins or hype coins or whatever you want to
Hmm.
call them, you have to be very careful because they could go up to 3 grand and then just drop and you could lose
Yep,
everything.
absolutely. Well, I think this was a new type of episode for us, and I think it went pretty good. If you guys think it went pretty good, or you guys liked how the conversation moved, we'd love to hear your feedback. I mean, if you guys want some more technical information in these, you can let us know. If you want some more of these storytelling conversational episodes, we'd love to hear what you have to say. I mean, it's only going to help us, and hopefully you guys can be more entertained in the future by curating what you want to hear. And that's going to wrap up this 15th episode of the Neighborhood Money Podcast. We appreciate you guys listening. Don't forget to give us a follow, like, share, and we will see you guys next week in the neighborhood.